This is chapter 3, lesson 2 for 7th grade. We are talking about integers. Now, the last lesson, again, as a review, all integers are negative, positive, whole numbers, and 0. Again, positive and negative whole numbers. Today we're going to be talking about adding integers. So this is where things are going to get a little tricky. When we add a positive with a positive, we're going to get a positive answer. So for example, 3 plus 5 would equal 8. Now, things get a little bit confusing when we add negatives and positives into the mix. For example, a negative number plus a negative number will equal a negative number. The example here would be negative 2 plus negative 3. The way to break this down is you owe somebody $2, but then you owe somebody else $3. You now owe a total of $5. If I were to put this on a number line with 0 over here, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. If I was already at negative 2 and then I added negative 3 to it, which is 1, 2, 3, I would land here at negative 5, and that would be my answer. So a negative plus a negative equals another negative. Now, when you add negatives and positives together, that's where it gets a little tricky. Now, the easy way is a negative plus, or a positive plus a negative, will just mean that number minus this other number. An example would be if I wrote 7 plus negative 2. The plus would just go away and this would become 7 minus 2, which would be 5. On a number line, it would look like this. Here is 7 plus negative 2. I'm going backwards 2, which would give me positive 5. So a positive plus a negative will just bring the number back. Now I can't say that it's going to equal a positive because it depends on what it is. It just becomes a positive subtracted by that other number. Another example would be if I have positive 1 plus negative 5. This isn't going to be a positive number. I'm going to start at 1, but then I'm going to jump back 5 until I get to negative 4. So there's no symbol that it will equal exactly. It's just when you add a positive and a negative together, it just becomes a subtraction problem. And then the other way around, when you have a negative number plus a positive number, it just becomes addition from where, say, you owe somebody $4, but then you found $5 on the ground, it will give you a positive of $1. Because you still owed $4, you found the $5, you pay them off, you got $1 left over. So on a number line, this is how this would look. You started at negative 4, and we're adding 5 to it. So you're going to jump to negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, and 1. This would be 1 jump, 2 jumps, 3 jumps, 4 jumps, 5 jumps, which is our positive 5. So negative 4 plus positive 5 would equal 1. Another way to look at it is to take the backwards approach. 5 minus 4 would equal 1. So let's get into this. And again, this is going to be probably a quick lesson. A lot of review in this chapter. We are looking at opposites and additive inverse. Additive inverse is probably a new one to you guys, but opposites again are if a number is positive, the opposite would be a negative. So positive 3's opposite would be negative 3. So let's get into our examples today. Add integers with the same sign. We've talked about this. When we're adding two positives, the answer will be positive. When we're adding both negatives, the answer will be negative. Examples of this are negative 3 plus negative 2 We had already started at negative 3. Going down 2 more would give us negative 5. And then the example here of negative 26 plus negative 17, think of it as just 26 plus 17 and then slap a negative symbol at the end of it. It is going to be 43, negative 43. So our examples are negative 5 plus negative 7. Negative 5 plus negative 7. If I ignore the negatives here and just do 5 plus 7, that will give me 12. And then we're going to throw the negative back in, which would give me negative 12. Or, again, another way of thinking about it is you already owe somebody $5, but now you owe somebody else $7. Now you owe a total of $12. Negative 10 plus negative 4 would just be 10 plus 4, which is 14. Throw the negative symbol in front of it, which is negative 14. And then negative 14 plus negative 16. We can balance this out. Again, it would just be 14 plus 16. And we can group. I know 6 and 4 would make 10. And then I have 2 other 10s, which would make 20. This would be 30, or if we want to do it the long way, 6 plus 4 is 10, carry the 1, 1, 2, 3, 30, but these are both negatives being added, so I'm going to add a negative symbol. It'll be negative 30. Add integers with different signs. To add integers with different signs, subtract their absolute values. The sum is positive if the positive integer absolute value is greater, negative if the negative integer's absolute value is greater. Let's put that in English. So in this case, negative or positive 9 plus negative 4, because the positive value, absolute value, is bigger, it is going to be a positive number. Now, if it were the other way around, where the negative number here is a bigger value, because the absolute value of negative 9 is 9, and the absolute value of positive 4 is 4, the answer is going to be negative. So again, if you're adding different symbols, a positive and a negative, the answer will be positive if the positive's absolute value is greater, and it will be negative if the negative's absolute value is greater. So in this case, 9 plus negative 4 is the same thing as saying 9 minus 4, which is 5. In this case, we have negative 9 plus 4. It's saying I still owe 9, but I found $4. Now I only owe $5. Or on a number line, we start off here at negative 9 and go to positive 4 route. I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps. That would be negative 8, negative 7, negative 6, and I would jump to negative 5. So negative 9 plus positive 4 would equal negative 5. Examples here, 5 plus negative 3. Again, this would just ignore the plus. It'd be 5 minus 3, which would be 2. On this case, it's negative 3 plus positive 2. I'm moving from negative 3 to the right twice, which would give me negative 1. Let's do the godits together. 6 plus negative 7. This is going to result in a negative number. Because again, when you do two different values, 6 plus negative 7, if that's how it was written, yep. The absolute value of 6 is 6. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. Since the absolute value of the negative number is greater, we know that our answer is going to be negative. This is saying 6 minus 7. I can't take 7 away from 6 because I only have 6. So I'm going to owe 1. Because say I have $6, but I owe somebody $7. I now have negative $1. I need to make up that dollar. So the answer to 6 plus negative 7 would be negative 1. The other example here is negative 15 plus 19. Negative 15 plus 19. The absolute value of the negative is 15. The absolute value of the positive is 19. The absolute value of the positive is bigger, therefore my answer will be a positive. I should probably put it in green. This is saying negative 15 plus 19, or the other way I can write it is 19 minus 15, which will equal 4. Because if I start at negative 15 and jump over 19 times, I will end up at positive 4. Because negative 15 jumps will get me to 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 more for the 19 jumps, which will get me to positive 4. Find 7 plus negative 7, which is 7 minus 7, will give me 0. And then negative 8 plus 3 will give me negative 5. Because negative 8 and moving 3 to the right will give me negative 5. Find 2 plus negative 15 plus negative 2. We are going to be dealing with a few things. Commutative property. 2 plus negative 5 plus 2 is another way of saying 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 15. We could find ones that have something in common. Because remember, the order to which we add or multiply doesn't matter. That's the commutative property. Hence, the adding is there. So, even if I add 2 to negative 15 and then add negative 2 to it, it's still the same way if I did 2 plus negative 2, which these two will cancel out. 2 minus 2 is essentially what this is 0. And 0 minus 15 will be negative 15, as shown down here. The associative property here is the exact same thing we did, but now we are boxing them out because 2 plus negative 2 will be 0. And then the additive inverse property, which we're talking about here, is when any number is added to 0, it's going to still be that same number. And that has to deal with the identity property. Remember, we learned this last year. Anytime a number is multiplied by 1, it's that number. Anytime a number is added by 0 or added to 0, it's still that number. So these are going to be some questions that we're going to do, and then we are going to call this one a video because it's pretty straightforward. 10 plus negative 12 becomes 10 minus 12, which will be negative 2. 13 plus positive 18. We're starting at negative 13, and we're jumping over 18 jumps. Remember, we'll hit 0 after 13 jumps. 18 is 5 more than that, so we do 5 more jumps, and we'll be at positive 5. Another way to rewrite this would be 18 minus 13, which would give us positive 5. Now, this is the question that we're going to have the most trouble with. And that is negative 14 plus negative 6 plus 6. So let's go ahead and clear off our whiteboard for this one. I believe I said negative 14, and it is in parentheses, plus negative 6 plus positive 6. Now, the commutative property states the order in which things are added does not matter, and then again we can do the associative property here because negative 6 plus positive 6 will equal nothing. It'll be 0. You owe somebody $6 and you have $6, it's gone. So these cancel out to make 0. And this is when we have the identity property or the additive inverse property where anything plus 0 is still 0. Or, sorry, that number, because we're not moving. So negative 14 plus 0 will still equal negative 14. And our answer to that one is negative 14. So if you guys want to try this one on your own, you can. The answer is there. Again, for the homework, wait for me to assign it in class. Hopefully it'll show up. There we go. It shows up. Any questions at all after watching this video or getting the live lesson in class, since I'm switching things up this year, please make sure you ask. Go to small group. As always, I am Mr. P. This has been Chapter 3, Lesson 2 for 7th grade. see you guys on the next one.